Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Welcome back. I'm your host, Sarah, and today's episode has been a long time coming. Life threw both Valarie and me some curveballs. Her son had a serious accident, and I landed in the hospital in Costa Rica with a nasty infection. But here we are, finally sitting down for a conversation I've been so looking forward to. Valarie Roberts is a quantum energy practitioner, educator, mother, homeschool advocate, leadership coach, and one of the most grounded, powerful women I know. Her work spans everything from early childhood development to adaptive leadership, and she brings a soul-deep presence to everything she touches. In this episode, we talk about intuition, parenting, public school systems, spiritual awakenings, perimenopause, the mental load women carry, and how illness can sometimes be our body's cry for alignment. We also talk about her work with energy circles and quantum healing and what it really means to create a family culture rooted in love, freedom, and truth. It's a warm, layered, deeply personal conversation between two women who are finding their way back to inner knowing. I hope you'll feel right at home here with us. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Goddess in Training. I'm Sarah, and today I am joined by my friend Valarie Roberts. And Valarie and I, we had meant to do this interview a while ago, and we both have had a kind of crazy month. I think we might get into that a little bit, but we had to cancel at the last minute because Valarie's son had an accident, and then I had an infection in Costa Rica. But we are back. It doesn't seem any different to you, my listeners, but to me, it feels different. Valarie, thank you so much for being here, and I'm so excited to have this conversation. I have done a quantum energy session with you, and I have also been to 2 meditations with you. We just finished one. So I should be a lot more grounded than I am, but we were just talking about the planetary alignment and the new moon, and I think that's feeding into some of the energy in myself and elsewhere today. But thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for offering so much to this community. I've talked a lot on this podcast about how we're in this space where we need community so desperately. And you've put so much energy into bringing people together. And so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure. I'm so excited to talk with you. I've been looking forward to this.
Tell me a little bit about your journey and how you've gotten to where you are right now. And I've been thinking a lot about anchor moments, those moments in our life that feel like would happen regardless. And for me, my intuition fed significantly into those anchor moments. I'm curious, what have been those anchor moments in your life, and how has your intuition played into those moments?
It's interesting that you brought this up. I've been reflecting on this and thinking about how we sort of end up where we're supposed to be, and that there's not really a wrong path because we're going to cycle back no matter what. And maybe it's because I have teenagers and we talk about those things. And it's like, it's okay, take a risk. It'll be okay. If it's not the long-term path, it's a short-term path. It's okay, come back around. For me, doing the work that I'm doing right now around energy, it's a little surprising to me. I didn't necessarily foresee this path for me, and very much a administrative, analytical, behind the scenes kind of person generally. So at first it felt a little funny to do this kind of work. Anchor moments for me, looking back, they start in my childhood with my fascination with culture, religion, the mystical, the supernatural. And of course, I thought everybody was like that, curious about that, but that's not true. And so, I have one memory of being at a friend's house in high school there's a party going on, a high school party, and I'm in her parents' library reading supernatural books because they had the most fascinating library of mystical books. So that's one moment that, it's kind of funny to look back on now. And then in college, I grew up in the Midwest, Bible Belt, maybe not as heavy feeling of a Bible Belt as it feels here where we're at in Virginia, which is kind of edging on the South.
Right.
It feels a little more intense here than it did there. It just felt like that's just life there. And it was kind of just an accessory. Of course, everyone went to church.
Right.
Like, what church do you go to? Well, I was always curious about it. But when I got to college, I had the freedom to take electives that, squelched my desire for curiosity about these things. So I took a lot of courses on world religions and spirituality and cultural and psychological and mythological types of classes every chance I got. Because I had so much curiosity about how the world worked outside of what we're told in like history or Bible classes. So that was another moment. And I clearly remember coming home one day and having a conversation with my dad, who's a grounded Christian, but a very open-minded man, non-judgmental. And, just spilling out all of these things I've been learning. And I could see the like fear wash over. Like he's like, what? And
What
I can
did
just imagine
I'm paying for this?
he's thinking like, my daughter's going to burn in hell. Oh my gosh. He's like, what are they teaching you? But I was just so curious, sharing all these stories I learned from all these different cultures. For example, like all the nuances within like the Muslim Islamic traditions. And so that was interesting because, then my dad had a need to like anchor me back, like, whoa, come back here. Let's talk about these things. And to honor him, I could feel myself pull back a little bit, at least in what I would talk about openly.
Of course,
Yeah. And so then, then I went on to a career in education for 23 years and largely lived a very monotonous rote life in that field and didn't have the time and curiosity to expand. So 0 years always have a big effect on me, like a review of my life kind of effect. And so when I was turning 40, that was a time when I was like, I'm 40. I probably need to figure out do I want to keep doing with my life what I'm doing now? And what else do I want to know? Like, what else do I want to be curious about that I haven't been for the past 20 years since college? And that is really when I kind of just let the floodgates open. And I just got into the flow. I learned how to get into the flow and how to let go of fear, not completely, but a lot. And explore things without fear and with curiosity and start incorporating more and more of those things into my life. So those are 3 sort of anchor moments, I think, for me that have brought me to where I am today and my open-mindedness and some of my beliefs that allow me to focus in on what I want to share.
It's so funny. I was a religion major in college, and my freshman seminar was called The Way of the Shaman. And, one of those things that I was like, oh, that sounds kind of neat. That was an anchor moment. I learned so much and it became so ingrained in me. How has that informed your practice right now? Because you work so much in the quantum field. And what is your perspective on organized religion today?
I believe that the core of all religion is to teach us the ancient truths that we carry in our soul. I believe we carry the truth in our soul. We all know the truth. And the original intentions are positive and good to teach people some of these things. I think that, unfortunately, many people experience religion as suppressive and damaging because certain people in power will pervert religious texts for power, for personal power and gain without consideration of, the population at large or the religious sect at large or whatever. So for me personally, I have a respect for all religions because I feel like this is the conversation I was having with my dad in college. And he's like, whoa, there's only one. And so I have a great respect for those wisdom carriers and what the religions are trying to teach us. But at the end of the day, I am obsessed with what we're learning about the scientific manifestations of what we know religiously and how we're able to interpret that into actions and activities and energetic work that we can do regardless of our religious beliefs, right? And how this time that we're living in right now is, to me, amazing and beautiful. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's horrible times. I completely disagree. I think this is an amazing time because we are watching the truth of who we are in our souls and as humans unfold in all of these different ways through all kinds of religions, through all kinds of spiritual practices, different humanitarian actions. And scientifically, we can study it with energy and I love the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, all the research he's been able to put behind monitoring this energy through, the Heart Math Institute, through UCLA, different things like that, to kind of explain what is happening in the physical, in frequency, as told in stories through centuries in religion. To me, it's all one and the same. And I love it. I love that we live in this time where it can be explained in both ways.
I agree with you, and I say that all the time, that I'm just so grateful to be alive right now, as challenging as it is. There's just so much excitement, and it's palpable all the time, and you kind of can see other people awaken and collectively people awaken. And it makes me wonder, we went through so many centuries of religion dividing us, and I would say even the scientific community has in a way become a religion to some people and has been used again to divide us in a lot of different ways. And I think we're at this moment where we're seeing so many similarities between all of these different modalities and languages. My question is, has your dad evolved at all? Like, do you still talk to him about these things, and how does he feel about the work that you're doing right now?
Yeah. So as a, 18, 19, 20-year-old, I wanted my dad to feel safe with me at school. So I would back down and just keep my mouth closed for the most part. And now, my dad are my dad and I are closer in age now than I felt that we were at that time, right? As you get older, you become peers. And so I'm very open with him. And, he's, I think, more open-minded about it now, less fearful maybe about it now. And I'm working to bring more and more opportunities for parents and my brothers to experience some of the things I'm experiencing without being disrespectful to him. I'm just, at this point in my life, I'm not willing to water down who I am anymore. I respect my room. I have work that I do for other agencies and organizations. And when I'm in those places, I respect the modality that they operate in.
Of course,
and I'm going to speak in their terms and so on. But if you ask me, no matter where I am, I'm going to tell you the truth about what I think. And I could not agree more about the reality that science is now a religion in many aspects. And with technology being such that it is, social media, AI, just information being largely available, and people understanding what is research. Like, used to be like, it's research, so it's right. Well, that's not always true. Research can look a lot of different ways. It can be done a lot of different ways.
There's always a bias. Yeah.
And you can always get the outcome you want if you do the research a certain way. So, well, I'm not saying that to say that there aren't certain truths. There are certain truths, and we can find those. It kind of becomes silly, doesn't it? The bickering about research and science and the defense of, well, it's science. Well, science changes. That's the nature of science. What we understand about science changes constantly. I remember being a little kid and thinking I wanted to be a marine biologist. And I thought, oh, well, by the time I go to college, everything that needs to be known is going to be known. And there's not going to be anything else for me to know because we've got it all figured out. I thought that when I was like 8.
That's a big thought for an
It
8-year-old.
is.
Wow.
And so I was like, maybe I shouldn't consider that.
Uh-huh.
Where did I get that? I must have gotten it from school or something,
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have those thoughts now, and I'm constantly talking to my teenagers about like, I'm not sure if what you're being taught right now will really matter in even 5 years. Even learning languages and like the technology is moving so quickly that these
Yeah.
things are just going to become available to us at our fingertips. Any kind of history and what we're seeing with AI, all the developments and entire career paths are being eliminated, and we have to adapt so quickly. But you already had that growth mindset as an 8-year-old.
Yeah, I'm not sure how helpful it was at the time. I don't know. And now I think like we think as humans we know everything. We know nothing. We know nothing. Like even now like I feel like I am so honored and humble when people want to come work with me and play with me in this way energetically. I believe that what we're doing here works because other people are going out there and doing the scientific work to show us like, hey, look, we can see it. We can see it on this computer happening. And that gives me a sense of that it's effective. It's enough to convince me to keep doing it and to help other people do it. But, what do I really know? I know like so little.
Yeah. Like I value and I like the fact that these things are being studied scientifically, but to me, I'm in this place where it doesn't really matter. I don't know.
Right.
That all these things, because we've been around this block before, and all it is I think it just is giving people language and certainty around the unknown. But I think that we're all going to get to a place where I think I live most of the time is like you just kind of know, and it's enough to just know. But maybe that's naive of me. I think that's where people talk about awakening as a remembering that maybe human beings at our inception, we just knew and that was enough. And then we muddied the waters with all of this uncertainty and data and the need to explain the world around us. And now we're kind of simplifying things again, in a way, simplifying, but with a lot of complexity.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I just to follow through on that. Like I sense that we spend a lot of our life, our day in our survival centers. We spend a lot of our life at large, I would say, as humanity, worried or in fear or thinking about the future or regretting the past or, continuing to stay in those traumas that we've experienced because we've all experienced them in one way or another. And that can sometimes, I believe, prevent us from knowing, trusting what we know. I know for me, for a long time it did. I would have a gut feeling or an intuitive feeling, and I didn't trust it, I guess, because I had been taught not to. Well, no, here's what the book says. Here's what we do. Here's how it goes. So let me preface this by saying I've been babysitting, caretaking, and watching children since I was 5. I love kids. They're perfect. They're innocent and wild and crazy and perfect. I've been doing that my whole life. I've always been drawn to their energy because it's real and free and just crazy. They just are who they are. So I majored in early childhood education because everything was already known in marine biology. So I didn't need to do that, right? But so I majored in that. Okay. And a lot of what I studied was brain development, human biology, social, emotional, well-being. So, like I was an expert in children. We established that. I was an expert in children. And then I had children. And I remember like, okay, when I had my first child in 2002, I didn't even have a cell phone. Okay.
Yeah.
I know that's hard for some people to grasp. I did not have a cell phone. And then when I had my second child in 2007, Facebook was just starting. Like I remember making a Facebook account while I was nursing her one day.
Yeah.
Right. And thinking like, what is this craziness, So we were then where we are now with access to all of this stuff. And as things would come up with my kids that would concern me, I would resist what I had learned was true. Other voices were telling me otherwise. And I was resistant to trust my own instincts. And that kind of pisses me off now. Now looking back, sad that I had gotten to that point when I was having those babies, and I should have felt so confident. And I hate to say should have, but I wish I had felt more confident, and I wish I had trusted myself more instead of letting external voices of wisdom try to tell me how I should do things and to doubt myself. And, fortunately, over time, I became more confident. And as I aligned with more people who did trust themselves, and I learned to trust myself more, that got easier and easier. And now I'm very, opinionated in my beliefs about parenting and child rearing and things like that. And I'm happy to share it with anybody who wants to hear it. But it took me, again, that was beat out of me, not physically, but, through school, through culture, through society, through my religious upbringing, trusting, knowing, going back to what you were saying about we just know, that I lost that for a long time. It has taken me years to get back to a place where I feel that we all have the birthright to be at our entire lives. I want my children to feel that always. I don't want them to lose that knowing. And, that's my work as a parent, is to make sure that they can access that knowing.
So what kinds of things helped you along that path of reconnecting with your intuition?
I think first it was starting to realize other people that I knew and admired were following that, were tuning into their intuition, were doing things differently, maybe homeschooling, homeopathic medicine, naturopathy, different forms of reality other than you hear on the news or at church.
Yeah.
And so seeing that modeled for me in other people that I knew and trusted, I think that was step one. Laid the foundation for me and gave me a little bit of confidence. And I think, step two for me was kind of hitting rock bottom in my soul, just losing my soul. So after 20 years in education, I was just soul crushed and felt like, what do I know? I know nothing, because everything I feel like is right, everyone in this system is telling me no. And, in my relationships, my marriage, same, I feel this seems wrong or right, but everyone is telling me something different. And just that imbalance, that misalignment with that, I just had to start questioning everything.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I did. Because I sometimes wonder, like, what would it have been had I just kept? I feel like I would be a woman now, just dead inside, doing a job just to do the job and make the money, doing that kind of work, being with someone that did not treat me the way I knew I deserved to be treated, was not an ideal situation. And I know a lot of people, they follow that path. And I think that sometimes the science or the being able to explain it another way, well, let me show you what the science, I know it sounds kooky. I know you think it's weird that I'm going to do this and some energy is going to come through me. But let me show you some science about it. Maybe when we can do that,
it opens the door.
They can let that survival, open the gate, let it go a little bit, step out of it a little bit and get in their head a little bit before they can take a breath and come out of that state of survival.
Exactly. Yeah. It's using familiar language that makes sense to somebody as a gateway to then inform them to educate about different ways of thinking and being. I think about this a lot. I also grew up taking care of kids. We first did foster care starting at 5 and then special needs adoption. So there were kids all around. And like you, when I had my kids, I was like, I know how to do this. I've been around babies my entire life. And then it was like, no. And then you learn the individuality, and then having your own children too is just a constant mirror to your own stuff. And it takes a while to realize oh, no. I need to fix this in myself before I can do anything to help you. And it's just a mind fuck, I think, being a parent all the time.
It is so transformational if you allow it to be.
Right. But like you too, I mean, I was more in the holistic way, and I think I'm just a stubborn person, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna follow the the path that's set out for me. Like, I always question everything, and I was living in Northern Virginia where there was a lot of that holistic moms groups, and so I was entrenched in that world early on. But I still was confined by the structures of society. I had to work, and I knew in my gut that my son, he needed to live on a farm and be lifting heavy things and using his body, but he had to go to preschool. He had to go to
Yeah.
kindergarten. I don't regret things. I believe we're exactly where we're supposed to be in every
Yeah.
moment. But looking in hindsight, if I had been able to give him that, and if he wasn't reading until fifth grade, and I think that's an indication that he should not have been in a classroom until
Right.
fifth grade.
Right.
And then, what damage was done, what traumas were put on him, forcing him into this space that just was not for him at that point in time. So, as a homeschooler and an educator, talk a little bit about these constraints that we're putting on children and the long-term effects, and how parents who feel like they don't really have many choices, how maybe they can broaden their possibilities for their own children at this point in time.
Mhm. The first thing I'll say is the first thing I say to everybody that I work with, like as an advocate or an evaluator. If you can homeschool, do it. If you can do it in any way, shape, or form, no matter how ridiculously non-normal that looks or you think that it is,
Yeah.
do it. If you are in a loving home and your children have access to food and nourishment and your love, that is all you need.
Yeah.
That is it. Okay. So that's the most important piece for anyone to know. So we have over the past century only, it's not been that long since we started public schooling. Okay. We have been brainwashed to believe that only sending your kids away to be with these other people all day is good for them. And it's shocking, really, that we have so easily taken to this belief. I truly and honestly believe if in a loving home with the things you need, you could not have a lesson plan in sight for the first 10 years and your kids are going to be, heads above anyone else their age in any school. I truly believe that because it is our human nature to use language, to have conversation. Children are naturally inquisitive and curious. Why? We all know that to be true. That happens as soon as they can start talking. They want to talk. Last night, my daughter's boyfriend was over and they were going to give his almost 2-year-old a bath. He had never said bath before, but they're like, you want to go get in the bath? And he goes, bath, bath. And he just started saying it. That's what children do.
Yeah.
They naturally want to learn and mimic you. So if you are loving them and talking to them and, whatever your day looks like, they are going to absorb it and pick it up. So parents often feel like, I'm inadequate. I'm not trained to do this. I don't know how to teach kids how to read. I don't know how to teach math. What am I going to do when they start algebra? I don't remember any of that. What if they're really smart and they need calculus and physics? And oh my gosh, and then when they need trigonometry? And then we spiral into this horror that we have to have the next 13 years of their life figured out today while they're 2 years old. And then we panic and we're like, I'm just going to send them to school. They know what they're doing there. Well, here's the truth. They don't know what they're doing there. How do I know this? I spent 23 years there. I spent 23 years in the classroom. I spent years as an instructional coach teaching teachers how to teach. I spent years as a testing administrator, a reading specialist, a gifted and talented teacher. I was a interim principal for a year. I have been on the board of education for a private school group. Not a system, but a group. I've been best friends with a school board member in our local school system where my youngest son still goes. And The reality is we send these young, beautiful, wonderful students to college because they want to change the world and help children. And they either want to be the teacher that they loved or they want to be the teacher that they never had.
Yeah.
And they either can do better or they love this person, they want to be that person. So they're idealistic, and we're always going to have an endless amount of children who are willing to go be teachers. Okay, so don't think that like, oh, well, someday they'll just stop. No, there'll always be someone who thinks like, I can fix it. I'm going to go, I'll fix it. I mean, that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
So, but they go, and for the most part, they learn a few things about behavior management. They learn a few things about their content area. Fortunately for me, I actually learned about holistic development. So I learned about the whole person. And then I learned how to teach reading and how to teach, I learned how to teach. It didn't matter what the content area was, I learned how to teach. Today, I don't know that the majority of educators actually learn how to teach. I think they learn their content area, and then they learn some behavior modification strategies, and a ton of really weird stuff that is a result of our crazy society that they also have to learn, and how to work in a system and so on. Yeah, there are people out there who know how to teach trigonometry, but guess what? They also tutor homeschool kids after school.
Well,
and
they don't make enough money.
because they don't make enough money teaching in public school for the most part.
Yeah.
And then a lot of teachers will go into administration because they need more money to survive. It's not because they love kids. It's because they can't think of anything else to do. And believe me, when in many, many areas across the United States, especially, the education system is one of the largest employers, right? If you're not in a major city. So to leave education to go do something else, very difficult thing to do unless you just have a really superb skill set that's unique. So it's hard to leave education once you're in it. So what do? They go into leadership, and they, replicate the poor teaching that they did at a higher level. And then this just becomes systemic. Then they become superintendents. So what I found was that like the teachers who go into teaching do it for the right reasons, and then they get stuck. And even when they realize that they can't make the change that they want to make. I mean, I've had principals stand in my door like this because I wasn't doing it the way the system wanted it done, which I knew wasn't for the best interest of the kid. There's no right or wrong way to homeschool. You find out what the legalities are in your state. In Virginia, you send in a piece of paper that says, I'm homeschooling. It's called a notice of intent. And then you just do it. And it can be signing up for an online program. It can be going to a homeschool curriculum fair in your town. When I started homeschooling 20 years ago, there were like 10 of us, and we met at the big church in town to do our test at the end of the year. There was almost nobody. It was very freakish, and everyone thought I was super weird for doing it. And I was a teacher, so really weird. But now it is like almost 10% of the population of children in my county are homeschooling. Wow. It's huge. Wow. So whether you're religious minded, secular minded, whether you like to do fun, mystical things, or whether you have a homestead and you're going to be working all day, to homeschool, when you take away all of the transitions in the school day, all of the organized moving around the school, the going here, going there, you take away the organized physical exercise time, recess time, lunch time, snack time. We're talking about, 90 minutes of instruction a day. So at most,
and that's
in most cases.
My son who, needed extra help, he had to have somebody sit there with him, and the actual instruction time that he personally had was probably.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So when they're little, like itty bitty, their attention span's 2 or 3 minutes in kindergarten or first grade. And so then what are you doing with all of that time? You're keeping them from hitting each other and rolling around on the floor and wrestling and getting into things they aren't supposed to be into, and all of that stuff. And so as a homeschool family, you can meet the needs. I know families who have like all age ranges from kindergarten to high school happening in the same home in the same day, multiple children, and these parents both work. either in the home or out of the home, but you just figure it out.
Mhm.
Does grandma need to come over and sit with the kids while you go to work? And then when you get home from work, you do the curriculum, or is the curriculum part of your day? Do you integrate it into, the homesteading work that you're doing? Do you have moments where you stop and say, okay, so we just picked all these tomatoes, let's weigh them. Okay,
Mhm.
that's this many pounds. How many pints can we sell? You know what I mean? You integrate learning into your day and you teach naturally.
And even without any formal education, this is one data point, but my partner in Costa Rica literally grew up in the jungle and didn't learn to read until he was 27 years old, and is one of the most intelligent people in a lot of ways that I've ever met. He knows how to build things and design things, and like this has not inhibited him in any
Hmm.
way. And he had very, very little formal instruction, but yet living in the jungle, he just told me this wonderful story that he was probably like 6 or 7, and he literally built his sisters a little playhouse with like a working stove in it, and they would like play house. And just the amount of knowledge that you gain by doing and being, that we just lose touch.
We think that that's not learning.
Right.
Living life is learning.
Exactly.
I'm still learning every day, and I plan to keep learning until I die. Like, that's the goal. I don't think I'm ever going to be like, well, I got it all.
Right.
Check me out. Like, I'm done. We're always learning.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be formalized.
Respond to parents who have a fear around the socialization aspect. I would say now that both my kids are almost done with public school, that the socialization has been more negative than positive. in my
That is
experience.
exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get really down to it, the majority of people I know that do homeschool, they pulled their children out due to negative socialization. I mean, once they pull their child out and they figure out homeschooling, they have 100 other reasons they love homeschooling. But I mean, the whole socialization thing, it's kind of a joke at this point. Maybe 20 years ago when there are 10 of us in the county that met at the church, maybe then it was, I guess, it's still a silly question, but more of a relevant question because there weren't a lot of opportunities. But I mean, homeschool isn't putting your kid in a cave and putting a stone in front of it for
Right.
12 hours a day.
Right.
You're not caging your child.
Right.
You shouldn't be homeschooling if that's your intention. That's the 1% that doesn't need to be homeschooling, right? Like there are circumstances. I mean, my life hasn't always been easy, and there are times when people are genuinely in survival mode, and for those children, being at school is the safe part of their day. And I would never want to take that away
Mhm.
from those children. And I don't believe that anybody ever would.
Yeah.
So dangling that to me is just manipulation. Like, oh, well, what about those children? Well, let's fund those children.
Take care of those parents and give them a living wage.
Yes.
Let mothers be with their children, and let's fix those problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's when there's a problem, it's a bigger problem. It's a
Exactly.
societal problem. We're ripping children away from their mothers and forcing their mothers or fathers to go off to work, and it's not natural. But yeah, I mean, the socialization aspect, it will always come up because the majority of our culture sends their children to public or private school and they just don't get it.
Mhm.
But when you really have a heart to heart with most people that I talk to, they have fears. They have worries about what is happening in school. My son started his first day today. I mean, I still, as like grounded and energetic and spiritual as I am, I still have to look at those fears that I have and face them head on because they still come up about what's his day going to bring. And it's easy to go down the fear path when we see the things we see in the news. The opportunities for homeschoolers today are just unbelievable, from athletics to social. Any kind of homeschool scenario you could dream up exists. I mean, one of my friends, her kids do like this magical, mystical forest homeschool where they get to there's Harry Potter themed months, and there's all these different fun little themes that just make it like play, but they're learning.
Let's pivot just a little bit, and talk about women, though, because it's normally mothers, stereotypically, and I think in my experience, who are taking on the brunt of homeschooling.
True.
And how in your experience have mothers balanced, oftentimes working and homeschooling and being the primary caretaker and really doing all of these jobs all at the same time. And what's that sacrifice?
Yeah. I don't think we can deny that womanhood and motherhood right now, I mean, the spotlight is on it. It has to change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to transform
Mm-hmm.
that reality in our culture, in our society. Women do take it on. There's no getting around that. You know, I meet men who do an amazing job, but that is not the norm. And even in some of the healthiest uh, marriages, parenting relationships that I know, it is predominantly the woman who takes responsibility for the parental decisions, at least for bringing the conversations up to have, orchestrating all of the events, managing everything, carrying the mental load for the entire household, everything that needs done, every doctor's appointment, dentist appointment, shopping, household management. It's a lot. It's a lot. But oftentimes for women who can homeschooling from the start, I will, give you this little bit of wisdom if you haven't had kids yet or your kids are very young. When you start out with homeschooling, you make your life much easier for the duration as long as you maintain homeschooling because you create the culture in your home of that system and the way things are. This is how things are.
It's interesting.
When you have to take your kids out of public school or private school, when they have experienced something and then you have to remove them from them and retrain them, re-educate them, they have to learn a new way of being. And you have to learn a new way of being. And a lot of times with homeschool families, it's recommended that you take a year at least to unschool, like unlearn schooling. Sometimes people will withdraw their kids from school for whatever reason, social, behavioral, academic, and they'll try to replicate school at home. That's hard. I would not recommend that.
Yeah.
That's not fun. It's hard on everyone and it's stressful and it's not necessary. And they certainly not like, okay, we start at 8 and we end at 3. I mean, that's just torture, But when you start it and you set the tone like this is how it is, you create procedures and systems in your home that work around having the team there. It's like building an office culture. You're building the culture of the family. Whereas when you're sending your kids to another place for learning, even if it's a co-op, a homeschool co-op,
Right.
you are then bringing into your child's mind and their reality these schemas and belief systems and influences of all the people whose care that they're in, right? So then when they're coming home, you have to fold that into your system too. And I'm not saying isolate your family and don't let any outside influences come in because that's not realistic either. But just to be mindful that every experience and exposure that we go out and have in the world, we also bring that home. And we need to be really particular and mindful of what we're allowing in the sanctity of our safe haven, of our home, and what we're allowing to happen there. So, yeah, the load is undoubtedly on mom, usually, but I have hope, and I'm seeing hope that the masculine feminine balance is coming back into restoration. And if we have these open conversations about that, like, have you seen the stuff about the mental load where the guy's like, we're never out of soap, babe. Like, does this soap just last forever? Like, we're never out of soap. And she's like, yeah, because I always buy the soap because I always know when we need the soap. I mean, that's one tiny example of the mental load.
I think the first step is I think women are becoming aware of the mental load
Yes.
because when I was in the thick of it, just you're in survival mode. And that was so profound what you said about creating the family culture because I never had that. I never had that growing up and I never created that for my family either. And just envisioning what that might look like, I think where I am now today is the closest thing to it because I moved and I'm by myself with my daughter and I have, my space is energetically my space and I'm allowed to keep things in and out of that space. But that was definitely not something that I had throughout the rest of my life. And just
Yeah.
envisioning what that might feel like too. And having home be the safe space for everyone in the
Yes.
family.
Everyone.
Yeah.
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 Can you imagine what it would be like if you're a young adult right now and you're not in a serious relationship? How empowering it would be to select your partner based on those ideals of what you want that culture of your home to be, and then how you want that parenting to be,
Yeah.
and how you want to raise a family if you want kids like in the culture of that home. How wonderful and empowering that would be. I did not have the foresight
Yeah.
or the maturity awareness to do that. I just kind of went wherever wherever the wind blew, and probably when I was 20, if you would have said that to me, or maybe like to maybe kind of look at it as a business arrangement, I've heard that very wealthy families will explain to their kids, part of our life is like running like a business. We have this generational wealth that we have to preserve and move through to maintain it for our families. Your ability to participate in that or not is highly contingent on who you choose to be around, who you choose to bring into this family, because we have to consider that as sort of a business. So they're coming into our business. I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. You can go run off with whoever you want and do what you want. But if you want them to be part of this generational, familial, ongoing wealth, then it does have to be that. So I think it can go to extremes either way.
Yeah.
But I certainly went to the extreme of, this looks good, let's do this.
Too.
Really think about.
No.
I just thought, oh, it'll all work out.
Yeah. 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 Me too.
It doesn't all work out. You need to put effort into it.
Not in this calm way of ease that I'm trying to manifest for my
Right.
life now too. Like my life up until this point has not been full of ease.
Right.
Struggle after struggle. I think you believe the same thing that physical illness is a manifestation of kind of emotional, energetic imbalance. I've been talking to a lot of people recently about perimenopause and menopause, and I kind of feel like for a lot of women, it's that kick in the ass. You have been doing too much. You have not been focusing on yourself. Like the universe, God, source is going to put you on your ass. It's going to create these physical reasons why you need to stay in bed and focus on yourself and receive. What do you think about that? And have you gone through any kind of transition? And talk a little
Yes.
bit about how that's been for you.
So I do totally agree with you that the spiritual and energetic and emotional manifests in the physical. I always say when we do our circle, and I do it in the individual healings too, that this is 1% of who we are. Our physical matter body is 1% of who we are. So there's organized information in our energetic body, 90 times bigger than this, that's informing our physical matter what to do. And you can have cognitive dissonance and pretend that you don't see it, which is what I did. You can try to reason and logic your way out of things. But the reality is, when you learn how to have connection to your intuition, when you learn how to trust your knowing, and you take the time to communicate with it, you will know what is right for you, what you need to do, if you need rest, if you need to change your diet or whatever. I'm not really a big believer or fan of the idea that every single person on the planet needs the same thing.
Yeah.
Like people are always writing the book, eat this, do these exercises.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's one size fits all.
Yeah.
I mean, we are amazing, dynamic creatures with all of this DNA. Have you seen the studies where biology of the men that women have been with remains in her body and can stay with her and can even manifest in her future children? So we
With a
are,
lot of men.
Oops.
wildly dynamic creatures beyond, like, it's not just mommy and daddy and now, but there's social influences and cultural influence, whatever.
But
It's not one size fits all.
literal biological.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so environmental. So we
makes sense,
have to tune in
Yeah.
because your code for who you are the one who can know it best, right? And so a couple years ago, I don't think I'm ready to say on camera what prompted this to happen.
That's okay.
Maybe next time. Some of my friends will know if they listen. There was a period of time, everything was going great. I was feeling good, whatever. And then suddenly I started to like massively gain weight. Nothing changed in my diet. Nothing changed in my exercise. Nothing changed drastically in my lifestyle. Okay. I started to gain weight. And then I became unable to walk. Like my feet, everyone thought it was plantar fasciitis. We could never find anyone to verify that it was, and I did not have surgery, thankfully, because I don't think that would have helped. But like my feet would like tense up, and I'd feel fine. I'd be walking through the grocery store, and then I'd be like halfway through the grocery store, and I'm like, ow, 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 ow. Like every step would hurt. Like I could barely get groceries. I would dread going to the grocery store. And so like my daily walks, my dog walking, my hiking, we loved to hike. We love to hike around the waterfalls in this part of Virginia. Love that. And some of those are miles and miles. They're not like, 30 feet. So all that stuff I loved doing was out of the question and my feet just locked up. And so there were some dietary things intuitively that I knew. I'm like, I think it's this partly.
Yeah.
And so I changed some of that. But ultimately, it was identifying some relationship and emotional stuff that was going on and digging in. Like it was buried. I was pushing down, I was burying, I was not talking about, I was not voicing what I wanted. I was being a doormat. And once I stopped doing that, and I started standing up for myself and my kids and facing this thing that I didn't want to face. Funny thing, I could just walk. I had no more pain at all.
Amazing.
So, yeah, I do believe. And I think that we subconsciously, we punish ourselves with our health. I think we get in cycles of self-punishment with habits. Like, let's use sugar, for example. Say, that you are insulin resistant, you don't tolerate sugar well, you're not metabolically flexible. But you binge on sugar regularly. You know intuitively and logically that this is a no-no, but you do it and then you feel bad. You have this cycle. You binge, you feel horrible, you get another disease, you binge, you feel horrible, you feel sick, you're in bed. It's just a cycle of self-punishment. And that's our work.
You get the little dopamine hit.
Yep, get the dopamine hit.
Same with alcohol. I mean, I've definitely been through that cycle with alcohol. It took a long time. And I'm like, oh, I have so much fun and I can let go. But then my body was like,
well, we lie to
you
ourselves.
can't do this anymore.
Right. Yeah, we're lying to ourselves. I had alcohol too. Like I would say, oh, I'm more relaxed with alcohol or I'm more fun, but that's not true. It just was not true. I was lying to myself. And when I admitted that, like you're not any more fun when you're drinking. You're the same. You're just pretending,
Another example for me, and I read in a handbook about integrating psychedelics that I found online, and this had nothing to do with psychedelics, but it spoke to me, was what he said, and I can put this in the show notes too, because I love this resource so much and it's free. There's so much wisdom in it, but what he said was, if you need some substance to be in a specific space, then that's an indication that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. And for me, when I read that at the time, I was taking Adderall because COVID hit and I had brain fog and I was like, oh, HD, and I tried my son's and I was like, oh, this really helps. And then I got a prescription online because during COVID you could do that and I learned that a lot of adults were doing this at the time, and then it created a shortage of Adderall. But I became so productive at work. I got into this flow, and it was amazing. And I'm like, I'm like the best worker ever, and I can sit and focus and just like get things done like 10 hours, and it feels like no time whatsoever. And it was great. And I was like, I can drive at night again. I wasn't able to drive at night. And it was a magical thing for me. But then I read that and I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing those things in the first place. And the fact that, like, I needed Adderall to do those things was an indication that, like, I shouldn't be doing those things, and I quit. And then I think that opened up this era of softness and care for myself that I was not
Yeah.
giving to myself before.
It was like you were being somebody that you weren't. You felt this need to be this person that you were not
Right, and I think a lot of people
from
relate
societal
alcohol, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
societal you like alcohol's so accepted,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's such poison, and, it's just so bad for our systems, and look, I love alcohol. I love drinking. I love the flavor of
Uh-huh.
alcohol.
Yeah, me too.
I love the buzz of alcohol.
Yeah,
I love it,
yeah.
but I don't drink it anymore
Yeah.
because I'm not trying to kill myself right now and I'm trying to like be well. I don't want my kids to have to start taking care of
Yeah.
me. And I know people my age, that is the case right
Mhm.
now. And I don't want that for them. I want them to be free and I want them to live their lives. So yeah, I'm trying to take really good care of me, and
Mhm.
one way I do that is by not consuming toxins knowingly.
Right, there's so many that we don't know we're putting into our body
Correct. Yeah.
all the time. Oh gosh, I live right near the Yokohama tire plant. I've lived there for a year, and it's only recently, like, I step outside at night sometimes and it smells like burning tires. And I'm like, oh, shoot, has this always, am I breathing in tire fumes all the time? Anyway, something I should look into.
Interesting. Yeah,
Um,
it's and so much of it is not in our
right,
control,
exactly.
and we'll never know all of that. However, I do believe that that is where some energy work can come into play
Right.
because I believe we can inform the energy, that 99%. I believe we can inform it on like, look, like I might not be in the safest environment right now, and I'm aware of that. And so, whatever you can do to
Mhm.
protect me from that influence, I'd like you to do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, just logically too, two people can be exposed to the same exact toxins and it affects one person and not the other. So it just makes sense that there are ways that we can defend ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do think that if you take the, oh my gosh, I'm being poisoned, and you go down that, then you drop all your energy drops into your survival center, your frequency flattens out, then that's when you get sick.
Mm-hmm.
So
Fixate on it, that
exactly.
energy.
So then again, you begin that cycle. So our perspective on it, our beliefs about it, how it can affect us, like this could affect me in a negative way, but I'm going to choose to not let that be my reality.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I'm a firm believer in that. It's a process though to like retrain your to
Constantly. Yeah.
be thinking in that way all the
Right.
time.
Right. I tell my kids, this sounds very arrogant, but I tell them, I'm like, you guys are so lucky that you are being raised with someone who is telling you these things, who is aware of these things. And, sometimes they act like they're listening, sometimes they don't. But I don't know if they think they're lucky for that or not. But I'm still teaching my parents about these things. And I didn't start really being open to them because of those anchor moments until I was like 40. So for like the first 40 years of my life, I was programmed with a different software. And now I'm trying to change the software, but the old software still has viruses running all through my system. And so I have to continue to overcome and like re-download that software.
If it takes a year to unschool the schooling systems, just think about 40 years of all of the
Yeah, like this is how it is.
Yeah.
And this is what I believe. And so this is how I act.
Yeah.
And then you try to change that midway through your life, So we have to be easy on ourselves because it's every day. Like every day I have hiccups every single day, and doubts. And what am I doing?
That's why I think it's important. I have to remind myself of this all the time to have lightness about all these things.
Yeah.
And like it's the grace, it's the lightness. And we're, just on this journey and to play and experiment
Yeah.
and to not take these things too seriously. Because I have a tendency to recently take things really seriously and feel like there's
Yeah.
a weight on my shoulders. Like we're birthing this new world and, you need to be working toward this. And it's like, it feels heavy sometimes.
Right. What if the working toward it is being present in joy?
Yeah, exactly.
What if that's the job?
Yeah.
That we're just supposed to be like sipping our tea on our porch, listening to the birds and being in vibrational frequency and alignment with them.
And having conversations and
Yeah.
exchanging energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I believe it really is. That's when I feel a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's your indicator
Mhm.
that you're on the right track
Exactly.
when you're feeling good. Feeling good is the work.
Exactly. So this is going to seem like an odd question, but I see you're wearing an elephant. It's an elephant, isn't it?
I have an elephant. I think there's a shamrock.
I was seeing the elephant before. Now I see the shamrock. What significance do elephants play in your life? And I ask this because maybe this won't turn out to be significant, but I had a dream last night that I was playing with a baby elephant, and then I saw your elephant.
Really?
Yeah. So tell me.
Love that. My gosh. I love that so much. Okay. So for several years now, I've been drawn to elephants, and I read a book and I cannot think of the name of it. It was a fictional book, but it was based on, the actual biology of elephants and this couple that came together in Africa around raising elephants. But I learned so much about the biology of elephants and how compassionate they are in their families and how deeply they feel love and how attached they are with their children. Like I could cry right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow,
they mourn,
Yeah.
they mourn the dead, and they're just such beautiful, powerful creatures. Also, there's a lot of cultural folklore around elephants for certain, communities. So I don't know. It's just been something that I've always been drawn to. I love elephants. There's elephants in my house. I've got a couple elephants on the shelf up here, but my son actually got this for me for my birthday. This was a gift from him because I like elephants and I like jewelry, so he got that for me. So yeah, that's the story. I like elephants and dolphins. I have a dolphin tattoo I've had since I was 18. I did want to be a marine biologist, and I've always loved dolphins ever since I was a kid and first went to Florida the first time and saw dolphins. And I believe they are power. Like, I believe that, talk about that knowing nothing as humans and having so much to learn. I really think we still have a lot to learn from what's in the water. It's like an unexplored field of science that we're just barely tip of the iceberg.
I have a friend who communicates with dolphins and orcas. I'm trying to get her on the podcast. Put a little note out there.
Yeah.
Because I know she watches. But yeah, like, and I've been trying to tap into that too. I think there's just so much we can learn. Elephants too, like horses, have enormous hearts too. And just that heart center that I think that a lot of us are being called. I've meditated with horses before, and they lock into you too. When you get into that meditative space, they'll stop and they'll not move at all. And they'll just connect, and you can feel this intense connection.
Wow.
It'd be amazing to do that with an elephant. Valarie, thank you so much. What's coming up for you next? What are you excited for?
Wow. Okay. So it's just a busy time in life. Kids are all doing all kinds of things and all that. But recently I've come into partnership with Maplewood Studios here in Roanoke, and I've been offering weekly lunchtime energy circles, which you participated in, and just a time where we can share a group meditation for self-healing and self-love, as well as expanded the planetary global love as well. So I'm loving doing that. We've just decided to continue those. I did a 6-week series and we're going to continue those on. And then I've been offering individual energy sessions. And recently I opened up a weekend retreat. So it's a 3-day retreat where it can be somebody in the community who partners with me, or it can be somebody, you can come in from anywhere in the world, and we'll set you up with an Airbnb downtown so you can walk and do things you want to do on your own time. But basically you get concierge service to a selected menu of restorative, rejuvenating, healing experiences, from, yoga to cacao ceremony to massage, sauna, cold plunge, red light, whatever you need. And then also I work with you energetically with quantum healing and Reiki and life coaching if you want to talk through things in life. I think sometimes you feel like you're really weighing down your friends. Sometimes when there's something really big going on and you're like, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse to this friend and they've got to be tired of hearing me. Sometimes that's the perfect time to talk to a life coach, because that's what they're there for. And even if you don't feel like you necessarily want coaching or guidance. A really good life coach is able to present questions that help you find your own clarity, because ultimately the knowing has to come from you. So no coach can give you the answers,
Right.
or a therapist.
Mhm.
It has to come from you. And so that can be incorporated too. Between my kids' busy lives and all the events we're doing here at Maplewood Studios and my services, that's what's going on.
It's a lot. Well, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Yes, it has been. Thank you for asking and for letting me share in this with you.
Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Seshat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening.
Resplandor del fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de rapé, soplo de luz, soplo encantado, viajecito